Welcome. We're really excited to see all of you here in the room. Am I too loud? Oh. We're okay. Thanks for being here, and thanks for selecting this session. I think as we look at the myriad and range of issues in facing Denver and facing the region as a whole, there couldn't be a more important topic for us to be talking about. As we look through a racial lens, through a socioeconomic lens, through a gender lens, thinking about documentation, thinking about disability, this question of what's happening around displacement of renters is the most critical equity issue I think that we can be discussing. And it's really incumbent upon all of us to be really both lifting up the resources and solutions that exist in our community, as well as really advocating for and moving forward solutions that address the many, many, many gaps that exist for renters across Denver. So we have a really exciting set of speakers for you today, both in this first part of the panel prior to a break, and then in the second part of the panel. We'll hear about data that kind of reinforces what we're seeing across the community. We'll have people share some stories with you about what they're experiencing on the ground. We'll have folks who are looking through a legal eye at what kinds of resources are available. And then after our break, we'll spend some time really talking about policy, both at a national level and what's happening here locally. I do have a few specific reminders for you. One is that this panel will run from 10:30 to 11:30. We have a lot of speakers on this panel, and so we'll try to make sure that there's time for your questions towards the end. There will be a break from 11:30 to 11:45, and then come back to this room because we'll be picking up the conversation and continuing it. For all of you, for this session in particular, we'll be doing simultaneous translation. We have two wonderful Spanish-speaking panelists, as well as a number of Spanish speakers in the audience. So if you didn't get your little headset, please just run to the back. You see Laura holding the headset up back there. She'll help make sure that you're all set for that. Also, please silence your cell phones for the duration of the session. And there will be a microphone that will come around as you're asking questions. And because we're doing simultaneous translation, it's really important that you use the microphone. That's the way that our translators will best hear you. That's actually happening now. Do we not have translators? Oh, making it allowed. Sorry, I'm sorry. Thank you, Debbie. Yes. Do we have a... Nola, can you pop up here and say that in Spanish? Or Indira, can you come on up? Thank you, guys.
Buenos días, tenemos interpretación al español, entonces esta sesión va a ser interpretada en inglés y en español porque tenemos presentadoras en español aquí. Entonces, si ustedes necesitan un equipo de interpretación, pasen a la mesa de atrás donde tenemos interpretación disponible. At this time, I want to do a quick mic check. Can you guys put your headset on and make sure that you could hear me?
Yes.
See? Good. Okay, if anybody can't hear, just let us know in the back.
And for our speakers, as a reminder, when you're talking, please speak into the microphone. That'll help our interpreters in the back make sure that they can hear you. I'd also like to just say a big thank you in advance to our speakers and our planning committee members, especially Andrea Morgan and Laura Brzezinski, who have organized this session. So I'm going to talk a little, just for a second, I'm just going to introduce the set of folks that we have speaking today. I'm going to let them go a little bit more into detail about who they are, and we'll just have them then go down the line and share their perspective and story with you. So first we'll have speaking Diana Elliott, who's the Senior Research Associate at the Urban Institute, a great mind with lots of good data to share with us. Next we'll have Ramunda Carrion, who's with the GES Coalition. She's going to share a little bit about her experience in the neighborhood and some of the issues that she's facing around possible displacement. Third, we'll have Maria Ceballos, who's with Unidos por Justicia. She's actually been displaced from the Westwood neighborhood and is now living in Adams County, so she'll share some of that experience with us. Then we'll have Honorable Clarice Gonzalez, who's with the Denver County Court. She'll be talking with us about eviction issues. And finally, Floyd Jones, who's with Colorado Affordable Legal Services, who will be talking about some of the resources that are available. Panelists, you're welcome to stay at your seats and address the audience from there, or if you prefer and have a PowerPoint, you're welcome to come up here and get going. So we'll dive in with Diana.
Great, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. Let me just move this ahead. So, as backdrop, this is a side note, this is what I envisioned your city would look like visiting here from DC. So, I like to look at this picture and think, this is the weather that I could have had. But I'm here to kind of do a really quick overview of data and sort of high-level points from a report that we just released yesterday. And our task with these reports was to look across 3 cities, and Denver was among them. We've already released a report on Miami. And the task with these reports was really to kind of take a step back, look at the data, talk to everyone in this space, and think about programmatic recommendations that might work in the context here. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the data. The report is 100 pages long, so you can look at that at your leisure, but it's quite lengthy. But I'm just going to touch on very high-level points today. And I'll say the other 2 cities, Miami and Austin, very different local contexts, but also facing the same issue of affordability, especially for this, thinking about these very low-income households and low to middle-income households. And I want to note that this report was funded by a grant from JP Chase, and they were really instrumental in making a lot of local connections for us, so we're really grateful for their help. So again, this report in particular looks at people in that low to middle income housing group. So this is, LMI households are in the 50 to 120% AMI, as we define them here. So in Denver, that's a bit higher AMI than in other cities. It's about $40,000 and $96,000 a year for a household of 4. And these are households that are typically not eligible for housing subsidies, but also find it really challenging to afford market rate rentals or just market rate housing generally. We look in this report at a data level at the neighborhood level, because this is really how communities and planners think about what's going on in their cities. And again, this report is part of a series. Again, you can, if you want to, read the 100 pages on Denver, you can read the 100 pages on Miami and see how they contrast. But it's this 2-part approach. So we dive deep into the census data over the last 15 years, and then we also talk to so many of the stakeholders who are really so instrumental in this work here in this local context, so many of whom are in the room, actually. And so in this session, I'm just going to look and talk very high level about neighborhood change. This will come as no surprise to anyone in the room. You've had a lot of rapid growth. So Denver grew by 128,000 residents in the last 15 years. To put this in perspective, this is a small to mid-sized city around the size of Stamford, Connecticut, or Topeka, Kansas, that you added to your population. People coming here tended to be younger, white, higher income than longtime residents, and growth in some neighborhoods, particularly downtown, was extraordinary. And about half of the people here are renters. And this is sort of a map that shows the share of renters by neighborhood. Not surprisingly, renter cost burden has gone up a lot. And when you break it down by income, you see that for very low income households, 82% are housing cost burdened, which means they're spending 30% or more of their income on housing. And this has gone up for that low to middle income group as well. Hasn't changed for high income people in Denver. So let me quickly talk about the neighborhood change typology, where we put this all together and try to think about what's going on in neighborhoods and how this is affecting particularly low to middle income residents there. And what we see is that we've had some really rapid changes in this city, in neighborhoods. So I call out Whittier here because it was ranked fairly low in 2000. And in the last 15 years, housing prices have gone up extraordinarily high. It's now in this top tier of sort of, if we put this all together, there's a lot of high sort of housing cost and housing value now, and a lot of the residents who live there look a lot different than they used to look in terms of their economic status. They're a lot more well off. Neighborhoods in the middle tend to be clustered in different parts of the neighborhood, more often in the west, and they have older housing stock and a larger share of rentals under $1,000 a month. And what we say here is that that's really where preservation should be focused, is in those neighborhoods where you have that older housing stock and you have low to middle income families living there already. And then in the bottom, we call out 5 points because, again, there's extraordinary change happening in 5 points, and it's quickly kind of moved up in this indicator from 2000 to 2015, such that there are very different residents living there now than lived there in 2000. So conclusion, to kind of wrap up with the questions I was asked to answer, what's displacing people? It's a lot of new arrivals who are higher income and can afford market rate housing. Housing stock and growth has really lagged behind this tremendous population growth. When we talk to stakeholders, they say condo development has stalled, market rate apartments were mostly built in recent years, and there's been tremendous inflation in the rental market. And as we'll hear, neighborhoods, for example, Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, have really had some struggles. And we heard this from stakeholders, that things are changing really rapidly and that renters are not secure and displacement is happening. Who's being displaced? It's, again, those who are having this tremendous housing cost burden. Very low-income families, low to middle-income families. Renters, those in neighborhoods close to downtown. And really, this intersects with race and equity. Black and Latino families who live in neighborhoods that have historically been disinvested in are now feeling this tremendously. And why does this matter? Because low to middle income and very low income residents, they're part of the backbone of this economy. So economic success has been because all workers have been able to thrive and prosper. And if you're leaving people behind, this economic engine will slow down. This is really a regional issue. This has spread out beyond the city, so there needs to be a regional strategy. And we're very optimistic that this can happen given your past success regionally. And this is also an equity issue, which again, I think we'll hear more about in the rest of the panel. So anyway, thank you very much.
All right, now let's hear a little bit from our neighborhoods. Ramunda?
Buenos días, mi nombre es Raimunda Carrión, vengo del área de Swansea, soy parte de la coalición de Globio, Lidia y Swansea, luchando en el desplazamiento. He vivido por 18 años en esta comunidad, en diferentes casas. En la última casa que vivo, la pusieron en venta sin avisarme. Pusieron el candado y el letrero de venta. Pregunté a la dueña si me la podía vender a mí. Ella me dijo que sí, que la estaba vendiendo en $225,000. Hice el trámite para el préstamo y se negó a vendérmela, porque la compañía con la que la estaba tratando le estaba ofreciendo $60,000 más. Aún así, le quise igualar la cantidad que le ofrecía, pero no aceptó vendérmela a mí. La vendió a la compañía. Los nuevos dueños hablaron conmigo, me ofrecieron que me quedara y remodelarme la casa con la condición de subir la renta de $600 que pagaba a $1,000 por mes. La promesa de remodelar fue de palabra, no de escrito, y no han cumplido. Dijeron que no la iban a remodelar, al menos que fuera nuevos inquilinos con el aumento de 1,600 por mes más el depósito. Y no quisieron hacer contrato de 1 año. En el mes de mayo del 2017 me avisaron por medio de una carta que iban a aumentar la renta $150 más. Mi preocupación es, ¿me puedo pedir que me vaya sin tener contrato, por tener contrato de mes a mes, perdón? Pues así pueden desalojarme sin ninguna protección. Aumentar la renta cada vez que ellos quieran, como lo mencioné antes. Están tratando de empujar mi familia de nuestras casas. La vivienda está en muy malas condiciones. Las ventanas de enfrente las pusieron muy inseguras. Las ventanas de atrás no abren, están selladas. En la cocina tiene liqueaderas en el zinc, la tubería del baño y de la tina seguido se tapan. No hay alarmas contra incendios de monóxido de carbono, no las quisieron poner. Es difícil encontrar una casa en la área por menos de $250,000. Las rentas son de $1,500 a $3,000 y tampoco no hay muchas disponibles en Globio, Liria y Swansea. Queremos una casa estable para no siempre tener el estrés de no saber dónde vamos a vivir y si van a aumentar las rentas otra vez. Mis hijos y los hijos de mis hijos, están en la escuela de Swansea y Bruce Randall. Mi trabajo es cocinar en micronegocio y trabajo de voluntaria en las escuelas, organizando en organizaciones en las áreas. Quiero empezar mi propio negocio de comida en mi vecindario. De mi familia y de mis vecinos, vendo comida a mis familias en las áreas, acostumbrando al vecindario como es en luchando para mejoras en el área. Y quiero estar aquí para verlos a los hijos de mis hijos crecer. Gracias.
Thank you, Raimunda. Maria, can you share your story?
Buenos días a todos. Les pido una disculpa por estar aquí un poco tarde, pero fue realmente un problema con el estacionamiento. Entonces, bueno, una disculpa otra vez. Yo vivo ahorita en Arvada y estoy trabajando con la organización Unidos por la Justicia. Pertenece también a 9to5 Colorado. Entonces, estamos tratando de hacer un poco más, como que sean más conscientes las personas acerca de qué está pasando con las rentas. Yo estuve viviendo en Westwood por 2 años y estuvo bien, estaba bien el vecindario, tenía todo muy accesible, tiendas, escuelas de mis hijas, todo estaba perfecto. Pero cuando los dueños vendieron el terreno, nosotros nos dimos cuenta un poco tarde, entonces ya no pudimos hacer gran cosa, o más bien nada. Ellos nos desalojaron, pero gracias a Dios nos ayudaron también a buscar un lugar para vivir. Este lugar donde estoy ahorita es en Arvada, estoy en la 54 y la Sheridan. Al principio fue un poco difícil adaptarme, ya que mi hija la más grande estaba cursando su último año en la escuela preparatoria Lincoln, entonces no estaba tan accesible para venir diario de allá hasta acá, todos los días, y nevando estaba un poco más difícil. Ahora me he adaptado a la vida de allá, me he adaptado a lugares cercanos poco a poco, y gracias a Dios pues creo que es un lugar bueno para vivir, solamente que también a veces tenemos un poco de injusticias de nuestros managers y de nuestros dueños que a veces nos quieren poner, por desgracia, reglas y incrementar las rentas y sacar reglas que muchas de las veces no entendemos de dónde salen o por qué las sacan, ¿no? Como renteros del terreno, porque yo rento el terreno, pues tenemos que aceptar, ¿no?, sus reglas y lo que ellos dicen, mientras, como dijo la señora anteriormente, mientras hacemos el trámite para una casa o cosas de esas, pues creo que es muy complicado. Ahorita, desafortunadamente, con el salario, como está el salario, como están los costos de las casas, no es nada fácil, la verdad, hacer un gasto de ese tipo, pero vamos a seguir luchando, todos juntos, todos unidos, y vamos a ver que vamos a sacar muy buen provecho de todo esto, todos juntos para adelante. Gracias.
Great. Now let's hear from Judge Gonzalez, who will talk with us a little bit about what some of the renters' rights and what she's seeing in eviction court.
Hello, good morning. I was asked to speak just briefly about tenants' rights, and I was joking with my colleague, Floyd Jones, that I was only given 5 minutes, but that would be fine because tenants don't have a whole lot of rights under Colorado law, so it won't take too long. In Colorado, tenants' rights are really a creature based in contract, so essentially a tenant will have whatever rights are established within the wording of the lease. And so that, of course, you have to understand that there's some power dynamics involved in that. Really, the tenant, with a few exceptions, of course, a landlord can't provide an unsafe environment. We're not going to get too much into that, but essentially, if it's not in the lease, the tenant does not have a right to anything in particular, such as what we're talking about today as far as gentrification, renewing the lease, the terms of the lease as far as the time, the amount of rent. It's all controlled by the written contract. What we're seeing in landlord-tenant court or eviction court in Denver County, from my own perspective, I was there, just rotated out after 2 years. I've seen a lot of increase in people who are actually working and still being evicted. So it's not just a matter of people who don't necessarily have a history of paying rent. Are you not hearing me? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're seeing an increase of people who are actually employed full-time, but still not being able to manage to stay where they're living because the rents are being increased, and they're being so properly under the law according to the terms of the lease. We're seeing a lot of that. What rights do renters have? As I said, it's all contractually based, with a few exceptions of safety issues. And what I'm also seeing is a tremendous, I suppose, as a judge sitting there, I see a power dynamic that's involved because the law is written so in favor of the landlord. You have people who are not represented. We do not have a right for counsel in landlord-tenant issues. And we do, if it's a criminal case, of course, if jail is on the table, you have a right to have a free attorney. But if your home is on the table, you do not. And that's unfortunate, but that is the state of the law. So we have a lot of people unrepresented going through our courts, a lot of people being very intimidated by the process and not even showing up. So we have judgments that are entering. Once a judgment enters against you, and you are evicted, it sticks with you really for the rest of your life. And so it's very, very difficult to find an adequate place to rent after that happens to you. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to turn it over to Floyd. Okay? Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? My name is Floyd Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Colorado Affordable Legal Services. Before I begin, by a raise of hands, how many of you in the room are renters? It's about half of the room. Put your hands down. By a raise of hands, how many of you have a roommate or a significant other, a partner or children that are renters in the room? Wow, that's a pretty good quantity there. Are there any single parents in the room? Raise your hands. About a third. Senior citizens. Seniors. I'm an AARP carrying member myself, not quite a senior. You know, you get it in the mail when you hit a certain birthday. Okay, any veterans? Okay, we do have a veterans present. Thank you. Colorado Affordable Legal Services was established in September of 2011. The managing partner is April L. Jones, attorney at law. I'm a surrogate today on her behalf. Thank you, City and County of Denver, for allowing us to have a presence on this panel. It's good to have a little diversity, having a male panelist. I think that's the only reason why I'm a surrogate. But Colorado Affordable Legal Services is a valuable community resource for those individuals who cannot afford or otherwise lack access to legal representation by providing a variety of legal services to improve the lives of Colorado tenants by not only defending their rights, but also by providing advocacy for the preservation of affordable housing, defending their right to request repairs to improve housing conditions, collaboration, and education, all of which creates a stable home environment, increases access to justice, and prevents homelessness for at-risk populations of the community. Now, Ms. Elliott did such a great job with the data. I do have to share some numbers with you just briefly. As the demand for foreclosure counseling continues to decrease, legal counseling services for those at risk of becoming homeless are still at a high demand. The Colorado Judicial Branch Annual Report for fiscal year 2016 reported the following eviction county court filings. Again, Ms. Elliott, thank you, because she had indicated this is a regional problem, so I'm going to just try to briefly give you an overview. In Arapahoe County in 2016, our neighbors to the east, there were 9,323 evictions filed. In El Paso County, our neighbors to the south, covers Colorado Springs, there were 7,523 evictions filed. Adams County was 6,301. Jefferson County had a low of only 3,501. In round numbers, between the 5 counties, including Denver County, there was 35,000 FEDs or evictions filed within those 5 major counties. When I asked earlier how many of you had a roommate or children in your home, many of you raised your hands. 35,000 evictions filed in those 5 counties is the equivalent of 70,000 individuals that are at risk of becoming homeless just through the eviction process, just utilizing our judicial system. In Denver County Court, just as a factoid, there was a total of 8,419 evictions filed in 2016. The good news is the increase was only 6.4% compared to 2015. However, in the fourth quarter of last year, October, November, and December during the holiday season, evictions were up 10.86% in the fourth quarter of last year. Landlords do not take the holidays off. The courts are open. On Christmas Eve last year, which landed on a Friday, I was in Denver County Court, and the line was out the door to get in. These are single mothers, senior citizens, individuals with mental and physical disabilities, veterans. They're black, they're brown, they're gay, they're straight, they're rich, they're poor, and I disagree with Ms. Elliott. They're very highly educated individuals that we see every day in our community, many of which are stuck with student loan debt that's preventing them from purchasing their first home. And because of the lack of affordable housing in Denver, that being defined by $300,000, it's very difficult to purchase your first home, especially if you want to start a family, and your first home is $300,000 and it's 987 square foot. With that said, there is an answer to this problem. Colorado Affordable Legal Services, there's a great resources available for tenants. It's called the HP Helpline. It's the Homeless Prevention Housing, it's part of the Homeless Prevention Housing Eviction Legal Program. The HP Helpline is one module out of a 4-module solution to help landlords and tenants that have questions about their rights. What are my rights as a tenant? What are the rights of the landlord? I just received a 3-day demand. What does that mean? I received a notice to quit. What does that mean? I received a summons to appear in court to file an answer to a complaint. Do I have to go? My landlord's raising my rent. Can he do that? Did he give me proper notice? I've got cockroaches, bed bugs, mold, no hot water, no heat, poor plumbing, seniors. On a day like this today, when I get back to the office, half of the voicemails that I'll have is going to be from seniors complaining about they don't have any heat. Seniors don't have that much body fat. They get cold very easily. Seniors also voice their opinions a lot. Seniors BMC. Seniors vote, right? So the eviction helpline, or the HP helpline is 203-996-0010. If and when you are being evicted, the Denver County Court, like other county courts, they do have a self-help legal center available. The helpline does have resources available. Not only are we a full-service law firm, but we're a resource partner, so we have information through collaboration partners where you can get help with emergency rent assistance, security deposit, even moving, food, shelter, clothing. We do a lot more than just answer the phone and help people that are being evicted. We have collaboration partners such as Catholic Charities, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, I'm proud to say is a very good neighbor in our community. Denver Human Services is doing an excellent job, a very valuable resource. Family Tree, Jewish Family Services, and the Volunteers of America, Bill Daniels Veteran Center for veterans in our community. That's just a partial list, by the way. This isn't my full database that we have. As Ms. Elliott mentioned before, when we talk about eviction, we're talking about involuntary displacement. Some call it gentrification. It's another way to put lipstick on a pig. Let's just face it. Individuals can lose their home for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes they just simply don't have enough time to move out of their homes. In the state of Colorado, if you are on a month, 2-month lease, unless otherwise specified in writing, on paper, under current law, the landlord has the right to tell the tenant to vacate the home with as little as 7 days notice, and they don't have to give a reason why. Who can move in 7 days? You can't even find a place in 7 days. Another quick example in Colorado, landlord is not required to give you a copy of the lease, copy of the contract. Landlord is not required to give you a receipt for payment of rent. Many individuals in our community are compensated in cash, so they pay their rent in cash. But the landlord is not required to give them a receipt. Those are just examples of why there's an eviction epidemic in our community because of the need for policy change. Displacement resources, there's a lot of different resources available for transitional housing. Call our number, we can give you those in detail, as well as calling United Way 211 is a great resource as well. Colorado Affordable Legal Services, located in Capitol Hill. I'm proud to say that I'm a resident of District 10, Wayne New, councilman. Oh, by the way, are there any city council representatives here with us? I see Robin Kanish, raise your hand, Robin. I think district at large. Councilman, I can't see you back there, raise your hand. District 2, District 1, any other, W. Ortega at large, any other representatives? Your elected officials are great resources. They are your elected officials. They care about their community. I know because I work with them on a regular basis, okay? On behalf of Colorado Affordable Legal Services, thank you for allowing us to be here. If you have any questions, please ask the panel. I'd be happy to assist you. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So we've got 2 microphones set up on either side of the room. I'm going to suggest that we just have folks stand up and line up, and we'll just take as many questions as we have the opportunity to take for the remainder of our time. I have a couple of questions myself that I'll ask while people are getting over, feeling a little shy. Maria, I want to ask you a question first. Something that really struck me as you were talking was when you described the challenge of getting your daughter back to school from the new community that you had moved to. And, you know, something that lots of folks that I know, when they've moved out further from the city of Denver, that transportation challenge is a really tough one. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that, about how you handled that, and about, you know, if there are others that you see that are experiencing similar challenges.
Bueno, me fue un poquito difícil entenderle. ¿Me repite la pregunta, por favor?
Sure. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the challenge of getting your daughter back to school after you moved out of your neighborhood. You mentioned that in your comments, and it's a challenge that I think we hear a lot about.
Cuando yo le dije a mi hija que nos teníamos que mover para allá, le dije yo que pensaba ella acerca de moverse para otra escuela. Y por supuesto ella me dijo, mami, ¿pero qué estás pensando? Es mi último año de preparatoria, yo no puedo moverme de escuela. ¿Cómo crees que sería fácil ir a conocer nuevos maestros, nuevos compañeros? ¿Cómo tú crees que yo voy a hacer eso? Y yo le dije, ¿cómo crees que yo te voy a traer desde allá hasta acá todos los días? Afortunadamente tenemos un amigo que su trabajo está para este lado, de la Evans y la Federal, y él la traía todos los días y él la llevaba a casa todos los días. Y yo traía a mi hija pequeña que tiene 9 años, yo la traía todos los días también. Su escuela de ella está en la Virginia y la Utica, y eso era de todos los días por un año. No fue fácil, la verdad.
Thank you. Judge Gonzalez, you talked a lot about the contract-based system and that being a real challenge to protections for renters. I wonder if you could talk about what you might imagine it would take to change that as a fundamental piece of the system, or other really significant policy changes you could see that would be kind of most impactful in this space.
Well, policy changes, of course, don't fall under the realm of the judiciary. Mm-hmm. They fall under the realm of the legislature. So it would take some very major legislation in order to change that dynamic. We're very well rooted in this system in Colorado. There are some other states that have a much different approach. New York, of course, is, I always call it the pearl of landlord-tenant laws. They have, of course, controlled rents. They have a huge amount of rights for renters and protections against displacement. We don't have that in Colorado, unfortunately. So I would see probably maybe increased representation as far as tenants are concerned would help tremendously. I think that further education with people who could maybe enlightening people as to their own ability to self-advocate for their own rights when they are going in to negotiate a lease. I mean, the dynamics are now with this economy, I mean, could you imagine a renter coming in and going, well, I would like to rent your place, but I don't like your lease. Here's my proposed lease. I don't think many landlords are going to be willing to do that, or that would be very successful, unfortunately. So I wish I had an answer to that. I don't. But it would definitely have to be something that would be on the legislative level, and we're waiting anxiously to see that.
Audience, what are you curious about? Sonrisa, all right, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Lisa. I don't know if this is on.
It is now, I see the green
All
light.
right. Is it working? There we
It
go.
is.
All right, great. So my question is a follow-up to that. How much of these, my name is Sonrisa Lucero, I'm with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability in Denver. How much of these laws could be changed or at least added to at the local level? How much can cities do versus what can the state, what has to be done at the state level?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think it's important to note that this has been litigated and relitigated, and the law is very clear that these sorts of laws have to be changed on a state level, not on a municipal level. And so as a city and county, we're very, very limited as far as what kind of major changes we can make to the law, and it would definitely fall into the realm of, sure, the state legislature as opposed to local municipalities. They're very limited.
However, I do know, just to add to that, I do know that there's certain committees of our elected officials at the local level that are currently in the process of identifying and evaluating solutions that can be implemented at the local level. And stay tuned. I do
right.
know that there's some stakeholders.
Come back for the afternoon
that
panel,
are-
or the panel right after this. That's exactly what we're going to be talking
I'll
about.
yield back on that, but I do know that there's some things that they're working on, and again, we're very fortunate to have individuals at the local level that are exploring, identifying solutions to help the constituents that they serve.
And speakers, don't get shy now that you're sitting down. Pull those mics close. Rosa?
Hi, my name is this on? Yes. My name is Rosa Guzman Snyder, and I'm here from Our Home, Our Right. We are a local campaign in Southwest Denver. And I know you all mentioned some resources that are available to community, but with our current political climate, we are actually seeing in Southwest Denver an increase in discrimination, specifically among the undocumented community. And so my question would be, how many of those resources are actually available for folks that do not have a valid Social Security number? And what can be done to protect the most vulnerable people, such as the undocumented community that is really feeling the effects of displacement more than I think many other communities?
I'll just respond to that briefly. So first of all, I think you're going to be in District 3, which is Mr. Lopez, your local government official. He would be a good starting point. I know he's very compassionate about serving the constituents in the city in his area along that Morrison Road corridor. But our resources are available regardless of your immigration status. I mean, we help all that call. Not only are we working with the Spanish-speaking community, but also Ethiopians, Somalians, Yemenis, individuals of our Arabic descent. We're working with Muslims in our community that feel that same type of concern. We're also working with Hans Meyer, attorney at law here locally, who you might have just recently seen. He's known for his immigration law advocacy. And we're also very sensitive to the needs of the undocumented community, because when we first started, actually, we were an immigration law firm. We were processing DACA applications under President Barack Obama's executive order. So we're very sensitive to the Spanish-speaking community, but also in your community, you have a very large population of Native Americans also, believe it or not, that are at risk of, and always have been historically in our country. In fact, I think they were the first ones to be involuntarily displaced. But to answer your question, the city and county of Denver does have resources, and I think the mayor has made it very clear. We care about you. We care about our community. Mayor Michael B. Hancock is an advocate for making sure that resources are available for you, and we'll continue to be there to support you. Please call our office at any time. In fact, we'd be happy to come out to your community and give you a free, no charge, landlord-tenant rights workshop in your community for your neighbors and your friends. Be happy to do that.
Any other comments from panelists on that one? All right, we have a question here.
Hi there. It's not so much of a question as, so I'm the community development manager for Adams County, and I just wanted to let people know that a program that we support through CDBG funds, and it's a program that a lot of people don't know about, but CDBG funds can pay for what's called code enforcement, and we've been successful in one of our lowest income cities to support through CDBG funds a code enforcement program whereby every rental has to be registered. And then from that point, renters are protected. And I'm so sorry that your landlord is kind of holding you hostage with windows that aren't providing decent, safe, and sanitary conditions. So I wanted to say that. But the program makes sure that tenants do have decent, safe, and sanitary conditions, and it's been highly successful in keeping housing stock still affordable because it's anonymous. The inspectors go out, and it's not like a surprise. The landlords know what is expected of them, and it's just something that I think we can't always rely on the federal government, or sometimes you just need to take local action, and this is a program that the city of Aurora does, I believe Boulder County does. It's highly successful, or actually the city and county of Boulder. Unfortunately, in unincorporated Adams County, because of statutory regulations that we are a statutory county, we can't do it, but we're trying to figure out a way around the loophole. But if you have a city, or if you're in charge of CDBG funds, I encourage you to look into this program, because it's not a program that a lot of people know about or use, but it's highly effective in providing decent, safe, and sanitary conditions for rental housing.
A quick comment. So she's making reference to the state of Colorado law. Under the state of Colorado, we have the Warranty of Habitability Act that says a tenant is entitled to live in a clean, safe, healthy environment. If there are any conditions in the home that are unhealthy or unsafe, such as cockroaches, bed bugs, mold, no hot water, no heat, poor plumbing, bad electrical wiring, carbon monoxide gas, or radon gas, the tenant has the right to notify the landlord in writing on paper to make a request for repairs. Unfortunately, that law does not say or define what is a reasonable amount of time to take corrective action on behalf of the tenant. Just really quick. Number two, that same law says that, as the young lady from Adams County, thank you for being present in Denver County today, the tenant also has the right to contact a local building code enforcement office or Department of Environmental Health to file a complaint without fear of retaliation, regardless of your immigration status, by the way. In the city of County of Denver, we have a very great resource. All you have to do is just call Denver 311. Is it 311, Robin? 311? 311? We have the Denver Department of Environmental Health, the PHI department, the public health inspector, will come out to your home at no cost for free. They will document the conditions in your home. They will notify the landlord that they must make the repair.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the way that different counties and cities are handling that issue of code enforcement. It can be such a powerful tool, but it makes a lot of difference, both in resources and in accessibility, about whether it's a complaint-based system or whether it's something that's a proactive system. It's a really interesting strategy. Maria?
Mi pregunta es, ¿cómo pueden ustedes llevar la información que tienen para nuestros barrios? ¿Cómo pueden ustedes informar a nuestra gente? Nuestra gente, mucha de la información que estamos escuchando no la saben. ¿Y cómo podemos hacer, si ponemos una denuncia, cómo vamos a evitar que nos saquen? Porque sabemos que tenemos vivienda en malas condiciones, pero si nos quejamos, si decimos no me gusta o me está afectando no tener calentón, no tener las ventanas seguras, porque se está gastando electricidad. ¿Cómo vamos a decir eso si el rentero lo primero que hace es decir, si no te gusta, te vas? ¿Cómo podemos evitar hacer la denuncia y que no nos saquen si no tenemos protección?
So two questions there, right?
gonna-
One is about
I'm gonna
how we
yield to
get
Judge
resources
Gonzalez on that
out,
one.
and then one is about how we make sure that people are protected.
So the first
You've stumped the
question,
panelists.
the first question is, how do you get information to the public? And if I had the answer to that, I suppose there's community advocacy groups that are available. I would certainly say that your organization does a pretty good job of doing that. Reaching out.
Absolutely. So it's all about education. You're right, Judge. And that's a very, very good question. Again, referring back to that statute that we talked about, there is a clause in that state statute that says retaliation is strictly forbidden
It's very, very difficult.
However, it's
to
very
prove that.
difficult to prove and prove. When it gets to the courtroom, okay, by the way, you have to wait an hour when you get to the Denver County Courthouse when you're being evicted. It only takes you 2 minutes to lose your home. You can be evicted within 10 to 14 days. It's a very, very rapid system. Again, when you get a demand for compliance or possession, when you get a notice to quit, you must immediately identify legal resources that are available to help you from the call to the courthouse. That means you have to understand what are your rights as a tenant, but also what are the rights of the landlord. But you must have the documentation in place. That means A, a written notice to your landlord making a request for repair. B, contacting your local building code enforcement office or Department of Environmental Health. If you do, for some reason, withhold your rent and your landlord is evicting you because of non-payment of rent, don't be going to the mall with that money, because you will be required to put that rent money into a bond with the court and allow the court to dispute or weigh out the merits of your case. You have a right to the judicial process to file an answer to a complaint and have your fair day in court. Contrary to popular belief, it is, again, the city and county of Denver has a very valuable resource, and it's just not our helpline. Beverly's Redevelopment has a number called Colorado Housing Connects. They're a great community partner. They have Spanish-speaking navigators that can help you also with these types of issues. And we're getting a flag here for a 3-minute warning. Go
I
ahead.
think it's actually 1 minute, but I'm gonna take one last question and before we go to break, and then come back with our second panel. So, Monica?
So I had a couple, I'll try to make it quick. Raymunda, su rentero cambió su contrato de un año a mes mientras usted estaba en la casa. So I guess I'm asking around, can landlords change contracts from like a 6-month rent or a 6-month contract or a year contract to month? And is that happening throughout the city? Is that policy state or city policy? Usted mencionó que cambió el contrato de mes a mes, entonces su renta era de mes a mes.
O sea, la rentera anterior, ella me hizo el contrato, pero se venció el año y ya no lo remodelamos. Tenía desde el 2009 hasta ahorita, estoy ahí, pero ella no me remodeló. Ella era muy diferente a estos nuevos renteros. Ella, si le pintaba la casa, me rebajaba en la renta, me tomaba en cuenta lo que hacía. Entonces, yo lo que me quejo es de estos nuevos, porque yo tengo el contrato de ella, pero como le digo, no me lo hizo de un año y ya no lo volvimos a renovar. Yo allí seguí hasta ahora, el año pasado, mayo del 2016, que se vendió. Yo les pedí que me hicieran un contrato de un año y me dijeron que no, que de mes a mes me iba a ir. No quisieron hacerme el contrato.
So do we find that landlords are starting to do this in the city?
Yeah, I think, I would say anecdotally, we're meeting more and more people, not just in the city of Denver, but all across the region, whose landlords are really reticent to sign year-long leases because they know about the economic conditions, and it's something that is a significant issue because, as we're talking about, the contract is the only thing that allows for protections. So we're going to come back in 15 minutes. Lots more robust conversation to be had. We're going to hear a little bit about policy in Portland, some of the steps that are being taken here locally in Denver and at a state level. So be back at 11:45 and we'll continue the dialogue. Thanks.